Peaceful reconciliation to any disagreement. I believe that is absolutely possible, but I think it takes a commitment and an ability to. Sometimes it means that you have to look at the bigger picture, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I think, like, when I look at this, or whether it's disagreement or agreement, we start. So grab your pen and paper, people.
Yes, I didn't tell you that. Get your pen and paper because we're going to give you some tips.
So we're going to start with our standard number one. And if you don't know our standard number one, it'll be wise for you to continue listening to every episode.
Debz is a stressologist. She will stretch your mindset to think bigger than you've ever thought before, with follow-through techniques that are realistic and achievable to blow any fear out of your mind. Moira is a mindset cultivator. She will help you align your personal trinity of self-trust, inner awareness, and self-confidence so that you discover and share your unique gifts and purpose. Together, their goal with these conversations is to share how our inclinations do not always work in our best interest and to provide the knowledge to leverage the gifts that already exist within each one of us. Their desire is to help you learn how to access the habits and behaviors that will lead to positive change and your best quality of life. Welcome to your deliciously motivated mindset.
Welcome. I'm saying welcome this time instead of greetings.
Yeah, greetings. I was waiting on the greetings.
Greetings.
Greetings,
Welcome, dear listeners. Welcome, dear Deb. How are you today?
Fabulous. I'm so looking forward to today.
This is a good one. It's a goodie. What can we say? This is our deliciously motivated mindset podcast episode here with dear Deb over there. That's Deb.
Me.
And myself, Moira. Deliciously motivated mindset. I am actually really looking forward to this conversation. This topic feels like a warm hug, soothing. Lots of my clients and students will know that I often talk about a self-soothing kit. This feels like could be a potential ingredient in that kit. But all that being said, also talking about self-soothing, before we get into our conversation, oopsie, this is the part Deb doesn't like. We like to check in on ourselves just to see how are we doing. And this is an assessment tool just to have an awareness around how are you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Checking in on your PEMS, PEMS. And there's no right or wrong. You can't get this wrong. It's just literally a way of assessing how are you now. And then we actually encourage you to check in again on yourself when we get our halfway mark, and then we all check in again at the end, because of course the intent of our conversations is always to bring us closer to a 0. So this scale, it is a 0 to 10, and 0 is feeling totally peaced out, blissed out, just calm, soothed, 0 for Zen, and 10 is feeling a bit chaotic, stuck, don't know what to do, sitting in the corner wondering how on earth you get out of there, that kind of thing. And like I said, we actually do all move up and down all of them. And it's just once we can name it, sometimes that's enough to start shifting out of the state, right? So all that being said, where are you?
I'm going to say a 1.
Good.
And the reason I'm going to say a 1 is, because, there's a big long spiel behind it. Well, I was going to say a 2, then I was going to say a 1.5. I actually feel really centered in my body. I feel, even though like it's morning here, I feel like my day's planned, there's things happening, and there's not really any, things that are really stuck that are going to require a lot of brain capacity to try and solve them out yet. Touch wood.
It's the way it's going to be.
Touch wood. So I feel like things are actually really in flow, and this is a great topic. This is a beautiful topic.
I agree. For me, I'm
Mm.
going to put myself at a 1.5. Similar to you, I'm in a really good place. I still have many things that need to get done before the end of this day, and I'm coming to the end of my day.
Oh yeah, and for me it's early.
Yeah, yeah. But also I'm really liking the vibe of this topic. And I always kind of judge myself on or assess myself on how do I feel about the topic. So I feel a sense of anticipation, but also want to make sure that we give good value and make sure we cover as many tips as we can as we talk about peaceful reconciliation to any disagreement.
Mm. Oh, it's a disagreement.
Oh, you thought it was agreement? No, any
Yeah.
disagreement.
Okay, now I'm going to a 1.5. No, it's no.
Peaceful reconciliation to any disagreement. I believe that is absolutely possible, but I think it takes a commitment and an ability to. Sometimes it means that you have to look at the bigger picture, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I think, like, when I look at this, or whether it's disagreement or agreement, we start. So grab your pen and paper, people.
Yes, I didn't tell you that. Get your pen and paper because we're going to give you some tips.
So we're going to start with our standard number one. And if you don't know our standard number one, it'll be wise for you to continue listening to every episode. Our standard number one starts with AA.
Yes, this is our version of AA.
This is our version.
Yeah.
And that is, it's acknowledge. What's the first one?
It's awareness. Awareness and acknowledge. Yeah. Like, awareness and acknowledge.
Yeah.
But do you know, we could actually say that it's a AAA because it's awareness and acknowledge and accept it too. I think that's a really important piece around the idea of reconciliation, right? Is just accept what it is.
Yes. So it is the AAA actually, because we decided that one other time.
That's right. It's okay. Okay, so it's not AA, it's AAA.
I'm just AAA battery. Yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's what we need. So plug into our AAA battery, because then you can commit and trust that, even because sometimes a disagreement can go on for over a period of time, and you can even, I know I can think to myself that you can't see that there's a resolution to it or that you could potentially reconcile, right? But that means you got to plug in.
You've got to open your eyes.
Yeah.
And I love the awareness, acknowledge, and accept, because it is, if you're, and this is definitely the first level of healing, or resolving, or resolution, or reconciliation, or peace, or agreement. Definitely, because if you're aware of it, you can go, okay, well, I can deal with it, left or right, but I have to actually see it. Acknowledge it. Yeah, I have to see it and acknowledge it, because you can't just see it and then shut your eyes and, like the kids try and hide and they're standing in doorway.
They just put their hands over their
turn their
you can't see me.
Over their eyes. Yeah, you can't see me. So you've got to acknowledge it as well.
Yep.
And then accept it. Now I'm just going to put a branch outside the accept, is you don't have to agree with left or right, but you just have to accept it, because it is what you have right here with you in the present.
Yes. And that's a really important, it's a really important distinction. Acceptance doesn't mean I'm going to say, yes, it's okay, or it's right, or I want to keep it even. Acceptance means it is what it is. It just is what it is. So it's a very important piece to bring in there, right?
Yeah, and once you do those three things, there's already your soul, your body, your everything is already starting to turn to finding that resolution or reconciliation, or to shift you closer to a zero than a 10.
Yeah, and to find harmony, right? Because that's basically what this is about.
Yeah.
Is the
neutrality.
Neutrality, but then even too, I was just realizing that reconciliation for a disagreement could also be just choosing to disagree.
Right? So if you even just break down that word, so break down our sense. So reconciliation, once you know that you're aware that there's wobbles,
Yes.
Okay, I can aware there's wobbles.
Yep.
Okay. I can acknowledge the other person's wobbles like my wobbles. And
Mhm.
I can accept that their wobbles are their wobbles and mine are my own. That's all part of that reconciliation. And then that
Absolutely is.
whole, the way you look at just the word reconciliation with those 3 AAAs,
Yep.
it's softer.
It is.
It's not. So reconciliation to me is ego and humble. And I talk about ego, well, it's not ego and humble, but I talk about ego and humble in a lot of things, as in it's your ego is making you jump in that car and drive like a madman.
Mhm.
But it's your humbleness that gets you driving that car and drive away, no matter what's going on to get you to get into that car, to slam that car door.
Mhm.
It's your ego and humble. And when you sit in ego, well, you have a lot more going against you than humble. You're going to get more peaceful if you're sitting in the humble, but not giving away your power.
Right.
If
But
that
again,
makes
this to me would kind of step us back into the acceptance piece, because I think that this is something that's really important with this, is that we all have an ego, and it's
Oh.
not right or wrong, good or bad. It just is. So
Yeah.
accept.
And
Because
and I'm just going to say your ego can be a 1 or your ego can be a 10.
absolutely. Absolutely. But you see, it's not about getting rid of your ego. I don't believe any healing is really about getting rid of it. It's about recognizing, like, maybe you could cherish it, like the little unruly 2-year-old that keeps having tantrums, and you say, no, it's okay. Come back. I accept you.
Yeah. Well, actually, I know one of my mentors, Sandra and Daniel Biskine, they talk about the ego puppy.
Yeah.
And I love that, so relatable, because, well, puppies are different to dogs, different to cats. But puppy is that little puppy who jumps up all the time. Look at me, look at me, look at me. You're going to throw the ball? Oh, I've just had a pee. Oh, I'm doing this. I'm walking with you. Oh, sniff, 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 diversion. And that's exactly it. It's the ego is that whole full on. Oh,
Totally is. That's hilarious that they do that, because that's that piece that I've shared. I think I've shared this with you before, about it's a mindfulness meditation piece that I use with people, is that your mind is that puppy. And so if you're sitting trying to meditate, your mind goes, oh, I have to remember to do this. I have to, oh, I forgot to call so and so, and I didn't answer that email, and oh, I need to check Facebook. Come back. And so it's like, see that as that cute little puppy. It's like, okay, cute little puppy, come back, focus on the breath. And yep, come back and focus on the breath.
We would just name that Finn. Oh, why do we name that Finn? Because that's our dog. He's just
that's Deb's dog.
We call him the annoying little brother to be. What are you doing? What are you doing? Where are you going? What are you doing? Huh?
But he's so cute. That's the whole point, right? He's so cute.
So he's the ego. Ben's the humble. But
there you go.
Yeah, that's it.
But so, with the two of them, they can reconcile their differences.
They can. But if you do the ego and humble and you bring in those 3 AAAs, the awareness, acknowledge, accept, it just shows it differently. And it is just going, oh, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's like doing that numbering of 0 to 10. Exactly. You're just like, oh, okay, this is what it is. Oh, that explains it then.
Yes. And you don't need to get into a big story about it, right? It just is that.
And it is, and I'm going to reiterate exactly what Moira said, it is that easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to go, like, when you're in the meditative state and you're like, oh, I haven't done that, and your mind's racing. You don't have to. You just go, oh, that's what it is, done. Yep. And you've instantly just accepted it without approving it type thing. Right. You've just accepted and gone, okay, that's what it is. It is what it is. And now we'll carry on. Now we can actually got something to deal with.
Yeah.
But I love the peaceful reconciliation to any disagreement, because I'm for one to say there's always a resolution, and I know Moira is as well. Otherwise, our podcast would be very different if Moira said no, there's not, and I said there is. But there's always a resolution to everything when you are in that. Not that when
mindset.
You're in the 10 state. Yeah, when you're in the 10, it's a little bit harder. But when you're in that lower number and you can see things, or hand on the heart, you can
hand on the heart for sure is a really important one. When we were just talking about the crazy making thinking about, oh my God, I forgot this and I forgot this. Yeah. That's a sign to put your hand on your heart and take a deep breath. and just land and say, am I aware? Am I acknowledging? And am I accepting? Right here,
Yes.
into your triple A's. But this brings me to our next tip, and it's, I think we should start doing something with this too, because this brings up the 4 agreements for me.
I've done more the last week on the 4 agreements than I have ever. What's going on?
It's amazing, but they're universal. They apply to pretty much everything and anything. But in particular, I'm thinking of a disagreement can often come about because we've either made an assumption or we're taking something personally. So those to me are the two of the, what's that?
The personally one is the heaviest.
I know. Because you've taken it. It has to come back to, it's not about me. That person, how they're reacting or what they're saying, it's not about me. And so that in itself, just that agreement could actually help you peacefully reconcile so many disagreements, right?
You know what? All 4 of them.
Oh yes. All 4 of them apply hugely in this conversation.
They scream for this, which is number 1, be impeccable with your word.
Yep.
I like to say your word, not words. Your word. Okay.
Your word.
One
Just
word there.
be impeccable with your word. Absolutely.
Don't take anything personally. Number 2. Number 3, don't make assumptions.
Yep.
That's something I love that. Yeah.
And number 4, always do your best. Yeah.
And I go back to, when I hear that, always do your best, I go back to bringing my daughter up, how I would bring her up differently than when I was in my 20s, than where I'm at now.
But that's one, and so that one can actually bring about disagreements within yourself, because it's not acknowledging that I've always done the best that I could. Do you know there's another thing? I'm reading this really cool book right now by Matt Kahn, and I'm working through, I can't remember how many, I think it's 10 rules or isms, but one of them is, and this is a really interesting concept, is to say, you've actually done nothing wrong. You never have. And so that one is really speaking to that, always do your best. Because if you've always done your best, then you've never done anything wrong. It's all about experience and evolution and levels of awareness and levels of acceptance and experiencing everything that's possible, right?
Yeah, I think when we go down that always do your best, it's like give yourself some credit. Think about all these old sayings, cut yourself some slack. And there's different ways of saying all those things, but always do your best is I don't think people wake up and go, I'm going to be an a-hole today. Actually, no, I do think some people do.
So, I have a client that I've been working with for a while, and he cannot wrap his head around this one. He refuses to actually acknowledge that he's always done his best, because he is kind of in this paradigm of, or his pattern of, I suck, I've screwed things up, I've made stupid or bad or unwise.
Even that word, stupid, I made stupid decisions. You're like, oh my God, no wonder you're not staying healthy or anything if you're going to constantly tell yourself that.
I know. That
internal dialogue.
And so this one, it takes a bit of awareness to understand, because you see, it's so important to not allow the current version of you that has all this wisdom, all this awareness, all this new insight, that then looks at the version of you, say 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even yesterday, to then say, well, you made the wrong choice, or you did it, like, why didn't you do it this way, or choose that, right? You didn't have the awareness you have right now. So you cannot, it's actually, to me, it's almost a form of self-abuse when we do that, when we don't
can't change the past.
No, you can't.
Like at least there's somebody out here who can take us back in time to But you can't, I believe you can't change the past. You can change your perception of the event.
Yes, you can change your relationship with it. There's certain hypnosis techniques that I can do for people and basically what I'm doing is helping them have a do-over or sort of change the way that it impacts them.
Yeah.
Not changing the past, but you're changing,
So you're reframing the event into another.
It's like I'm seeing it through a different lens.
Another vision, yeah.
It's a wee bit like that. You know how it's said that if there were 25 people all standing on a street corner and they all witnessed an accident, and the cops were all interviewing them all, you'd have 25 different versions of what happened.
That is so, but I don't think people actually get that. Can I just say that? Because I can say there's 3 people watching TV and they'll all have a different scenario of whatever happened, and people are like, no, and you're like, yes. Yes.
And the truth is you're all right.
I know.
Everybody. So see, there's a perfect segue into peaceful reconciliation to every disagreement, is that because if somebody's going, no, this is what I saw, you're wrong. Like, no, that's what the other person saw, was whatever they saw, and everybody was right.
I know, and I think actually that's a great point, actually, because you are right in what you saw.
Yes.
Like, you are correct in what you saw. Don't dismiss it.
Yes.
But then you can decide if you would like to reframe that, edit, tweak,
right,
whatever. But you were right on what you saw.
Right, exactly. And so the thing is to own what you saw and not feel like you have to tell everybody else this is what you saw. Yeah. Right? This is what I saw, so that means you saw the same thing, because you can't do that.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that? I was on a meeting last week where there was quite a group of us. I think there was like 50 people on this meeting, and somebody came on saying, we all feel this way. And I'm like, no, wait, you didn't check to see with me if I do actually think that.
I remember our Prime Minister of New Zealand said something, for every person in New Zealand, we are sharing our love or something with you. And I was like, no. I was literally like, no, you can't speak for me.
You didn't ask me.
Yeah, you didn't ask me. And yes, there is a bit of empathy going towards what happened, but no, I'm not feeling it the way you're feeling it. Don't put me in that, and I got really funny about the whole thing. I was like, no, don't you speak for me. I feel differently. I feel a 3. You may feel a 1. I feel a 3, and it was quite interesting how when we speak on behalf of people, that's exactly that whole thing, and I guess that could be, well, actually, that's a step for peaceful reconciliation, is allow people to have their voice.
Precisely. So therefore use I statements when you're saying, I feel this. And that in the example that I was giving, she actually did reframe it, because I think she caught herself that maybe the vibe was like, hey, she's like, oh, so young lady. But so yeah, she did change it into I. And then you see, when I say I feel like this, then other people can go, oh my goodness, that's cool, I do too.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's also having that, so part of that is that confidence of actually saying, so you don't have to bring in all your tribe behind you. Because sometimes people go, oh, what do you think? My mum says to do this, my dad says this, what do you think? And it's like, no, don't go collect data. So you can say, I have 4 people saying yes and 2 saying no. Don't add me to your data collecting thing.
Yeah. I agree.
You do it, because you do hear people say, oh, do I do this? But it is just being okay with what you're saying. Like, you don't need the force of 10 people behind you saying, I agree, or I don't agree. My thoughts are.
But that's a worthiness, right? It's saying, I am worthy enough to have my own opinion and stick to it.
Yeah.
And not feel like I have to. That's going into the thing that we've talked about so many times about compare yourself to others.
I was just going to say, being okay with, so having certainty in your voice is really what it is.
Yeah.
Is actually, but also having that flexibility to be able to change.
Yes.
If you get different information, that you can go, oh, I hadn't thought of it like that. Oh, yes, now you've put a completely different spin on it.
Right. But you need to find your own sense of yes to have that click, not,
Yes.
oh, I have to do it that way because Deb or Moira just told me I have to do it that way.
Yeah. Don't listen to us. Well, yes, definitely listen to us. Yeah. So it is that certainty in your voice, I guess, certainty in your decisions, but also being okay, being flexible to change.
And that's a really interesting part, because if you think about it, that actually all comes back round to the always doing your best and acknowledging that you've always done your best.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a becoming, and it's one step at a time. And you know, I can think of, and you and I've talked about this so many times before too. It's like
a quick wee message before we get back to this episode. You can get access to a special gift Moira and Debz have put together for you. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift. When you sign up, you'll receive instant access to an inner peace kit and the 30 Days of Wisdom program, both of which is intended to help you feel deliciously motivated right away. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift.
I'm in my 50s, but if I look at how I did things in my 30s, very different to what I do and what I choose and what I gravitate towards or away from.
I don't know how I managed to stay alive all this time when I look at some of the stuff I used to do. And, you know, and like right from, just some crazy stuff that I used to do young. And I'm like, God, how did I never get murdered or anything? You know, just I'd have I'd feel like a tribe was behind me if I ever had to confront someone in the street or anything. I'd always be, if there's somebody with a crowbar, I'd be like, what are you doing? You know, no, Deborah. No, you walk away and you ring the proper people. No. But it is that. Oh, what were you going to say?
No, I was just saying that I was coming back into what feels like peace. You know, so when you're in that kind of vibe, in that mode, your brand or your definition of what felt peaceful is likely quite different to what it is now. I know it is for me. Right? That it
totally.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing is also, you know, when we look at our title, peaceful recognition to any disagreement, I think when we have that word disagreement or agreement is, you know, to any conversation.
Yes.
Just because somebody's saying no to you, you know, or I disagree that I don't think that's black, I think that's white, or that's grey, or there's because there's how many different shades of black. You can argue with people who've all got different eyesight how many different shades of black there are. It's black, it's fine. But there's, as I look around my office, there's a million different shades of black. Who would have thought?
No, it's very true. And you see, you know, back to what we were talking about the lens through which people see things. Talking about this color thing, my dad was colorblind, and so you could see, and actually I remember as a kid talking to him about it and being fascinated, because I mean, I love purple, I love actually all colors, and just the whole idea that you couldn't enjoy the different shades of red, for instance, or the different shades of purple. But he said everything to him was like a shade of what he described as being brown. So it was just all different senses of lightness and darkness of brown. So you know, back to the thing of being an eyewitness, I couldn't take what he saw as being my truth.
Yeah, that's a great example. That is a great example about that colorblind too, because we all see things differently.
Yeah.
You know, and well, I mean, how many times do people say when they say you've got a witness and they go, do you wear glasses? And they go, you need glasses on, you know, then it's like, okay, righto. But that whole thing, but you know, for any disagreement, any conversation, the key is to know what your outcome is you'd like.
Yes.
the amount of times when you say to people, oh, I'm going to complain about something, and you go, okay, what would you like for a resolution? They're like, I don't know, I just want to complain. You know, when I used to work in a department store when I was like 18 or 19, people would just come and complain, and I would say, what would you like?
Yeah. And they get all discombobulated, like nobody said that. I just want to
I
bitch about
know.
it.
I know. And then you're like, okay, I get it. I get it. You just want to be like seen and heard. People want to be seen and heard. I get that. But
Yes, yes.
I'm like, I'm all for resolution. Like, I can see you, I can hear you. Let's just cut it down. What resolution do you want? You know, probably was a little bit shorter back in those days of like, oh yeah, I can hear you, I can see you. Let's just, what do you want? But it is that you know, have your vision of what outcome you'd like, but also be flexible in your outcome.
Yes.
And because you can't say, I want all my money back. And it's like, well, no, you're not going to get, or whatever it is, you're not going to get all your money back if you bought a couch and, you know, now it's got a rip in it or something. You're not going to get that. So be reasonable. What is it that you can actually agree on? That's a fair exchange for both parties. And I think being aware of that is, and that's that ego and humble comes into play again.
But I like that because what that brings up for me, what you're saying about knowing the outcome that you're going for, that to me says you're solution focused as opposed to being really caught up on the problem.
As to be moany.
Yeah, it's like there's nothing to be gained by it. It's like, okay, so bad things happen. But if you kind of just go in and acknowledge and like you said, I see you, I hear you, what's the solution?
Yeah.
Because it's always there. Any problem that exists, the solution has to exist. We have already talked about this in a previous episode when we talked about all problems have a solution. But it's like we live in polarity. So problem equals solution. Sometimes we can't see them. But to your point, this is about opening up to, you know what, maybe I can't see the solution, but I know what I would like.
Yeah.
Right.
And until you actually decide on a solution yourself, you're left with balloons in the air would be it. So until you actually go, this is what I'm looking for, because otherwise you're just going around in a circle, you know, the old hamster on the wheel.
Yep.
And we know
that's exhausting and energy draining and
we know how that one ends up. Yeah.
Who knows how long you'll be there unless you jump off.
Yeah. Fall off, isn't it? Yeah. But it is, but I mean, I do think know the outcome, but be flexible. But also, you know, and I'm going to bring in 2020. 2020 definitely made everyone change on their flexibility and their time frames and things like that, because we don't know what's around the corner for anybody. So, you know, when I say be flexible with your time frames and don't lose your crap over $10.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if I can say don't lose your crap over $10, but don't, like, it's not the end of the world. You're
don't
still
get
alive.
so rigid that you can't move forward if it didn't, you know, obey. Like you're talking about the 2020 thing. Can you remember back in the initial stages of this pandemic was, it's 2 weeks. I think that was the thing, was everything will be back to normal in 2 weeks.
You said 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah. 2 weeks. That's all. 2 weeks will be fine.
2 weeks will be stop hearing about it overseas.
We'll just turn on and we'll be back to traveling like normal, and everybody be back in their offices.
So, do you think Moira had a realistic time frame? No. In her mind,
no, that's what I was saying. That's what I was hearing people saying to me, and I'm like, well, I'm kind of write this one out.
But isn't that a beautiful scenario? Exactly that is that people are saying 2 weeks will be done. 2 weeks will be back to normal. And it's like, okay, and I haven't even I haven't even researched into it. But from what I'm seeing, I don't know if 2 weeks is going to be enough.
Yeah.
It is that be flexible, because we did not know what was going to happen to the world.
That's right. But be flexible is an important part, but also come back to peace lives within me. So coming back to flexible sometimes can just be okay, it's still all up in the air. There's still a disagreement going on around me, but I can be peaceful in my own energy bubble, in my own heart energy. I can breathe deeply. I can bring myself closer down to that zero and be okay, be accepting, be acknowledging, be accepting of what's going on around me, and doing whatever I need to do to keep shifting forward. right?
Yeah. Well, that brings me into one of my favorite points, which I haven't said already, and we know what this one's going to be, and it starts with G.
I knew it. Knew that was coming.
I knew this had to be coming, and that is gratitude. Oh my
Mhm.
God, I just, even when I say to people about gratitude, they're like, "What? How do you do that? Or how do you get?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, gratitude is just so simple. It can take that chaotic mind and hand on heart. Be grateful for those family members who are having a go at you, or your colleagues who are moaning about you. Be grateful they're doing that because they're alerting to stuff that they can see that you can't necessarily see.
Mhm.
Be grateful that's happened. Be grateful that they're not talking to you. Be grateful for the challenges and the support, and just true. And I love that you said peace lives in me.
Mhm.
That hand on heart, just that and gratitude just goes so well together. And
Beautifully does, yeah.
that instantly changes that disagreement to an agreement in your own soul,
Mhm.
because all you're disagreeing with is actually your soul, and you're
Yeah.
doing things that are not, that are outside your scope.
Yep. And I really like that whole thing about what you're saying about gratitude and then hand over your heart and acknowledging pieces here. It's so soothing to your nervous system, because thinking about this coming to reconciliation with a disagreement, sometimes a disagreement is getting more magnified because your nervous system's all it's that freeze, freak out. That's the amygdala, do the fear response, the fight, flight, freeze, or freak out, and sometimes all of them
At once.
But gratitude can actually help you come back into all is well right here, right now.
I know it does. But hand on heart is my go-to always. I'm going to say always,
Mhm.
and my daughter was graduating recently, and I could just feel the whole overwhelm, and I just put my hand on my heart, and I didn't cry, it just was like, oh, this is a beautiful space to be. And then came the gratitude from that. And I just sat in such a, or you can say a peaceful space to where I was.
Excellent. Excellent.
Oh, well, we've got some goodies here. Shall we do a recap?
Yes, let's. I think that would be good.
Well, we instantly know number one, but let's share number one. I'll share number one, because then you can do the next one.
Okay.
And that is awareness, acknowledge, and accept.
Yes.
And that sums it up. That's all there is. But the accept, I'm going to say the but on the accept. The accept does not mean you agree or disagree. You're just accepting it. It is what it is. And when you accept it, when you are aware of it, acknowledge it, and accept it, then you can go to the next stage.
That's right.
But until you do all three of the AAAs battery, you're going to get stuck.
Yeah. So to remember and anchor that in, it's plugging in to your AAA source.
I love that.
Your energy source.
Yeah.
AAA battery. Love that too.
Perfect.
The second one, we talked about how this peaceful reconciliation of any disagreement can so beautifully be looked at through the lenses of the 4 agreements. The 4 agreements being always be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And we talked about lots of different nuances particularly on that, always doing your best, because it's important to just be accepting. Here's the accepting thing coming back in, right?
Yeah.
Of you know what you know when you know it.
Yeah.
And if you look back at, younger versions of you, you didn't know all the things that you do now, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm just grateful back in those days that social media wasn't around. Because I might be telling a different story now.
It might be.
But I do love the 4 agreements. And I just think they're so clear. And when you can feel yourself do one of those, your soul just connects with everything else inside, and you're like, oh, I have just done my best. I've done the best I can.
Yeah.
And it's a heartfelt fulfillment.
Yeah.
Would be.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the reason I had originally brought them up was I was saying that making assumptions or taking things personally can actually be the root of a disagreement. And so if you remember those as well, that may actually be the opening the door to a peaceful reconciliation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, well, the next tip I've actually got below that is you were right in what you saw.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that also just goes back and entangles again to the 4 agreements as well. But you were right in what you saw, and if you think about that with the different shades of black or
Yes.
color,
Yeah. Yeah.
and knowing that 4 people watch news and they all come out with 4 different stories.
Yeah.
And you're left with, oh wow, and those stories have come from their upbringing, their upbringing,
their belief system, their awareness, their own wisdom, sometimes it's your own indoctrination that creates a lens and through which you judge and assess things.
Yes.
And sometimes that we can have that running completely unconsciously.
And so there is no right or wrong in yours or what others see. So you were right on what you saw. I think that's a great one to remember.
I think so too, and that actually leads right into the next one that we talked about having certainty with your own voice. So because like you're saying, sometimes you can hear what other people saw or their version of what happened, and you kind of go, oh really? Oh, maybe I was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, how many times do you do that? You go, oh, maybe
I never saw that.
Change my thing. Yeah.
Might have to. So that's such an important part, because that actually, if you think about the whole piece around peaceful reconciliation, it could mean just accepting that the other person has an opinion that you can't get your head around, but that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It's like giving everybody their space to be who they are.
I think the older I've gotten, the more I don't, I would say when I was younger, I was probably determined to change people's minds about certain things. And that's probably my ego, or what I mean, probably. I can hear it. Yeah, that's definitely your ego. And I'm just like, you don't have to. Yeah. You don't have to. And you just love them for their thoughts, and that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the one I've got, and I go back to, we talked about allow people to speak their voice, certainty in the decisions. And that's pretty much what you've just sort of said as well. So it's all that whole entanglement is do your best. So with those, so my next one is know the outcome.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. Know the outcome and be solution focused as opposed to keep wanting to tell a story about a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And absolutely. And be flexible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Be flexible with your time frames, be flexible. And that goes back to these 4 the 4 agreements again, is don't take things personally. So if you want an outcome and someone goes, look, I can't come over today to do that for you, don't take it personally. They've obviously got something else on that's more important or more pressing. Don't, and that's it. It's like, well, they said they were going to come over here and they were going to fix this. Yeah, well, they didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
They didn't. And so be okay with that flexibility.
I think that's such a powerful thing, is to know what your preferred outcome is, but then by giving everybody else the right to be who they are and show up with what they can and cannot do, that means you can be flexible and sort of say, okay, there's another solution, or there's another way, right?
Yeah. It doesn't have, life doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah. I talk about that a lot. It's supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be playing.
Maybe that's a podcast title. Life doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah, let's do that one. Do that one.
It doesn't have to be hard. My God, the amount of people I see take the hard road for things, I'm like, oh God, what lesson are you? What outcome? What have you put out there for?
Exactly.
The next one I've got where you spoke and you said peace lives in me.
Yeah.
And having that own heart energy. That is just a beautiful wrapping up of just peace lives in me.
Peace lives in me. And we access that. I access that every single time I put my hand on my heart. Is that I'm reminding me, and anybody that sees me do that is reminded. Peace lives within me. Peace lives within you. That's such an important part. And if you're taking this one into dealing with a disagreement, if you could actually just do that in the disagreement, come to the sense of peace lives within me. Now, is there any disagreement left?
I know. Imagine if the two parties did that.
I know. I think we should start a campaign. This is what you got to do. That brings me to the last one I have, and it was your favorite word.
Oh, my favorite, my G spot.
Deb's favorite G spot. It's gratitude. Attitude of gratitude. It's funny because we've talked about gratitude many, many different times. Gratitude and appreciation. I always like to think that, what you appreciate appreciates. But the thing about gratitude is there is always 100% of the time something to be grateful for.
It's funny, you actually can't stuff up gratitude, I was just thinking.
No, you can't.
It's actually something you can't, because you can just start being grateful that my heart's beating, grateful that I'm inside, or grateful that I'm outside. You can't stuff up gratitude. And even if you just start with just little gratitudes.
Yep.
I say to people, start in the morning, go to bed at night, think of those 3 things you're grateful for, and it can just shift your whole dynamics.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a great believer. And that's actually my own practice, is a gratitude practice before I go to sleep every night. And I'd be lost without that. It's
it puts you into a beautiful love bubble, a peaceful reconciliation of your own soul.
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely does. Yes.
Well,
More of that.
Peaceful reconciliation to any disagreement. And that disagreement can be your own soul going against your own soul.
Absolutely. Can be an inner disagreement, that's for sure.
Well, they were lovely ones today. They were lovely ones. So let us know if we've missed any off there.
And let us know what your favorite one is.
Yeah, definitely. Because we know what one mine is.
Yeah.
We know what one mine is. So in saying that, we started checking in with our number of what we liked, where we were at. And now we checked in halfway, and we're going to check with our 0 to 10 where we were sitting. Moira was a 1.5 and I was a 1. I can pretty much telepathically, because I'm such a mind reader, know where Moira will be. Moira, what number are you?
I'm a 0. I'm a 0. Zen for 0.
Yeah.
You're saying that your favorite is the gratitude. My favorite is the inner peace. So here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, we're straight to that 0. So we would love to know where you started to where you ended, what you really loved about today. But obviously we're not going to stop.
You're a 0 too, right?
I'm a 0. Oh, you did not say I'm a 0.
No, you didn't. I was like, okay, we have to say that.
No, I'm well and truly a 0. I started shifting. I think as soon as we started talking, I started shifting into that 0 with it. So we'd love to know where you are, but we all know that if you like today, because you've clearly made it to the end, so you like some part of it.
Yeah, welcome to the end of our show.
So if you like today, the next step for you is actually to share this. Share this with those you care about, those you don't care about, those who you'd love to have a peaceful reconciliation with.
Yeah, maybe anybody that you're having a disagreement with. Yeah, help you all become solution focused.
So when you do share this with those, just ensure that you share with the best intention.
Yes.
Energy, ego humble, approach from humble, hand on heart, gratitude, sharing.
Yes.
And not the bigger picture of swinging. But today was a beautiful one. And if you do get stuck on anything, please reach out to Moira or I.
Definitely.
We literally consult. I was going to say 24/7. Well, it will be 24/7 because my day's your night. So
that's right. Yeah, so we've got you covered 24/7.
Yeah, that's it. Between the team of 2, we've got you covered 24/7. So if you do get yourself into a pickle, don't sit there longer than 5 minutes.
That's a good one.
Just
That's a
reach
good
out.
tip.
So that's our Deliciously Motivated Mindset podcast about peaceful reconciliation to any disagreement. And that's moving from the head to the heart.
Definitely.
Is basically what we're doing here.
Yes.
So thank you everybody for listening today. I appreciate that. Go and share this podcast with those you care about and those you don't care about, which we know you secretly do care about. And thank you, Moira. And we will be back next week or next episode.
Next week. Thank you very much, Debz. Thank you, dear listeners. Bye.
Bye.